Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Wild Yoga Tribe podcast. I'm your host, Lily Allen Duenas. Together, we'll talk about the world of yoga and we'll talk to people from around the world. Join us for authentic conversations about the global yoga ecosystem, and we'll cover yoga philosophies and methodologies along the way. Inhale, exhale. We're about to dive in. Namaste, family, and welcome back to the Wild Yoga Tribe podcast. This week, I am delighted to welcome Sharon Brenes onto the show. She is a yoga teacher from Costa Rica. What a beautiful country. I could definitely use a little Costa Rica sunshine right now. But she is here with us, tuning in and as the guest for this week. So Sharon Brenes is a Trauma-Informed Yoga Alliance certified 500-hour yoga and meditation teacher. She began her yoga practice in 2008 and continued her path to be trained as a facilitator under the Akanda Shakti method, which fuses the tradition of Hatha yoga from the Himalayan yoga teacher Yogrishi Bishu Kitu with the empowerment, creativity, and feminine divinity approach of the Adi Shakti. So in 2017, she created her venture, the Karuna Tribu, a Hispanic community based in Costa Rica, offering yoga teacher trainings, workshops, retreats, and lectures on the integration of yoga in the modern lifestyle, which she combines with her other professional area, social communication. She is the lead teacher at SoulWork, director of the nonprofit Shakti Seva, and runs the Spanish programs, offering Yoga Alliance certified yoga teacher trainings in both 200 and 300 hours and in prenatal yoga formats. So as you can see, I think Sharon is going to make for a wonderful guest, and I'm so excited for our conversation to begin. So let's welcome Sharon onto the show. Thank you so much, Sharon, for being here.
Thank you, Lily. I'm super excited and grateful to be here sharing with you and your listeners.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So let's just get started with, how did you start your yoga practice?
Well, I was really young, actually. I moved from San Jose, like the main city in Costa Rica, to the Pacific coast in Jaco area, which is a really touristy area in Costa Rica. And I was working a lot, I was studying a lot, and I needed to do something. I always liked movement, working out, everything. But I had a 8 to 5 job, right? So I couldn't do a lot in nature. And I found this yoga platform in the middle of the jungle. And I was like, I may try this. And I remember my first class, it was magical. My teacher back then was beautiful. She introduced me to the practice. And back in 2008, I was sure that I wanted yoga to be part of my life, that I wanted to study more. So then I moved back to San Jose to finish my career and finish everything with college and all that. And I found a place again to continue my practice. And then in 2015, when my mom passed away, I knew that there was no other tool, there was no other thing that was going to help me with this grief process, but connecting with myself again. And like all the hustle in the city, you get used to this crazy schedule and doing a lot, doing. And in grieving processes, you have to stop. You have to give yourself time to heal, to listen yourself, to process everything. And I decided to book a retreat. I remember Googling Costa Rica yoga retreat somewhere, and it was a yoga teacher training, actually. And I was like, oh, okay, this is perfect. I can just take myself to the jungle again, study profoundly the yoga philosophy, and have some time for myself, because again, when you are grieving, it's common for you to just wear a mask and pretend that things are fine, just because you don't want to talk a lot about that with people and people at work and all that. And I took the time, I took myself to the jungle for a month, and that's when the teacher path started somehow. I never imagined that I was going to become a yoga teacher. Never, never in my life. And I rather to see that as I am facilitating spaces for people to connect with themselves again, to transform, and of course, honoring the tradition, honoring the ancient knowledge that yoga has brought to us in this side of the world. And suddenly, what was like my shadow, like the biggest pain I ever felt in my life, became a clear path for me to follow my dharma. And now, pretty much like 13 years after my first practice or something like that, I am grateful, and I see the grace in how these tools, this practice came to my life, and how I can offer that now to people who may be struggling with life things, or maybe needing some tools for them just to reconnect with themselves. And this is how this started.
Oh, that is a beautiful story about how yoga came to be in your life. I'm sorry for your loss. I know no matter how much time goes by, it's still I still want to offer that to you.
Mm,
Um,
thank you.
but I love that you just went to the jungle. Like those words to me seem so like I don't know, like they just touch me. They're primal, they're earthy, they're grounding you. It's like you literally took yourself out of the hustle and bustle of the city, as you said, out of everything artificial, out of the masks, out of the space where you could kind of hide. And then you said, I'm going raw, I'm going real, I'm going vulnerable, I'm going to the jungle. Wow.
Yeah, totally. And it's a process, and now when I look back then, I can see like how this metaphor of the onion really, really happens, like shedding those layers. Like, how is grief supposed to be? Because I remember people telling me, like, after 3 months, you are supposed to be doing this and that. And I'm like, there is no formula unless you connect with yourself, unless you know yourself better, unless you forgive yourself for the things you haven't looked at yourself so far too. And I think the jungle offers that space in which you can connect again with Mother Earth, with the elements, well, here our weather is always crazy. So mornings may be like super sunny, and then in the afternoon it's raining and cold. And I needed that. I needed to be in contact with nature. I needed even to be with strangers, like knowing that there was no judgment around, and everyone was in their own experience, right? Because it's not easy to be an empath with people while they're in any kind of grieving. I'm not saying only about like someone like you loved passed, or I don't know, like some sort of relationship ended. Grieving is there, and sometimes we don't even know that, and then it stuck in your body, and then it stuck in your mind, and you try to continue and continue, but you're still stuck, right? And it's important to do the work. And I think that yoga offer us lots of tools, and pretty much that's what the practice is, right? Finding yourself again, knowing yourself better, so you can interact with nature more free, right? Like understanding that we move through cycles, which is important too. And all these cycles make us grow and make us understand another layer of ourselves, and discover that layer of ourselves with love, compassion. And something I really appreciate about this practice is the tool of observation, of being a witness of my experience and knowing that it's temporary, that it will pass, that it will bring lessons and growth to my soul and to what this human experience means for me today, not thinking that much about tomorrow. What is this experience today? What I am experiencing? Where is this coming from? How can I take radical responsibility for my inner state as I understand my path and love my path, or cultivate that love for my path? And when you do that inner work, which is every day, right? It's not solved in a yoga retreat or in a yoga class. It cannot be fixed. When you understand that you don't have to be fixed, but do the work every day, I think that all that weight that comes with difficult processes in life gets a little bit lighter, because then you change that for compassion. Then you change the fear for love. What's beyond fear? What you don't know, what it's unknown for you. So coming from a place of spiritual work, of love, of compassion, makes the things a little easier in this human experience.
Oh my goodness, Sharon, that was intensely eloquent and just so well said. I can't agree more. And I love the tool as well that you brought up, the self-awareness and the knowledge that things are temporary. Because I feel like either there's those, we create like a cork in a bottle, we just bottle things up and pretend things don't exist, or in the opposite direction, we feel like we're drowning in it and it's never, ever, ever, ever going to end. And I'm going to feel horrible forever and ever. It's like those two gifts of kind of being able to watch what's happening and to say, all right, this is going to change. Because if you observe yourself, and even every morning, like one hip is more flexible than the other, and then my shoulder hurts one morning, and it's just everything is so different. And we need to make sure we pay attention when they change, which I think sometimes when we move so quickly, we forget to do that. So I know, Sharon, that you create these spaces, these retreats and these lectures and these teachings on the integration of yoga in the modern lifestyle, which is, what we're talking about. Could you tell me more about the Karuna Tribu and about what spaces you're creating?
Yeah, of course, would love to do that. Well, I started Karuna in 2017 when I completed my 500-hour certification. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I wanted to hold space for people as someone holded that space for me too. And it was really interesting at the beginning because I was just offering donation-based classes. And in that moment, it was like beautiful and lovely to notice how many women were coming to my class that look a lot like my mom, not only physically, but in different ways, in different stories that they were sharing with me. And it just helped me to reconfirm what my dharma, what my path was, and that I just should trust in that. And then suddenly I started supporting my teacher Adi Shakti in the jungle with her trainings. Then I became part of the faculty team. And nowadays, of course, with all these crazy things happening in the world and the revolution of virtual teaching and all that, we opened Spanish community for SoulWork, which is our sister brand, the Karuna sister brand. And now, like this past year, everything became more even accessible for these teachings to be part of the Latin American community, because I can tell you, like in Latin America, it's hard to find high quality yoga education just because of the language barrier. And it's really common for, I don't know, like the US, Canada, and even Europe to find good quality yoga teacher trainings, which is the first step for a person from America, to deepen in their practice, probably. And for Latin America, there were not many options. And it was a privilege for something, or it's a privilege for someone to go to India or do a yoga teacher training, because most likely they're offering English. So I have the mission to continue expanding the knowledge, the teachings of yoga in my language, right? Spanish. So Karuna has grown a lot the last couple years because of this mission of making yoga more accessible and more inclusive for the Latin American community. And it means offering it in Spanish, offering like same quality education as I receive from my teachers. And also in price terms, it's different, the access that we have here in Latin America than in the North America area. And then, like it has been beautiful, blessing after blessing. Everything is starting opening up again. People were starving for in-person contact things, right? So I decided to open a space for retreats again and in-person activities. And now it's been a beautiful experience the last year just to know that the Latin American community is growing, that Costa Rica is already a wellness destination. And now I have the opportunity to bring both things to my country, right? Latin American people that can come retreat, find themselves in the jungle, and also everything that Costa Rica has to offer in terms of wellness, beaches, jungle, adventure, and self-connection, connection with Mother Earth. So it's been a little mix of everything that has happened. I like to think it has happened because of the divine grace, and the things have unfolded beautifully, to continue offering all these tools: meditation, yoga, pranayam, mantra, and trauma informed spaces, so we all can have the tools to support people in their journeys. For me, it's really important to understand that and teach that yoga is not only about the headstand and not only about the perfect alignment in warrior two. Yes, that's discipline and that's part of the physical practice, but when we study the ancient text, asana is like the less mentioned part in the yoga practice, right? It's more about self-knowledge, self-awareness, self-regulation. And I think that from a modern perspective, we need to understand that not everyone is just seeking for a spiritual experience, right? Like, yeah, I'm finding enlightenment. It's not only about that. That's part of the journey, I guess. I haven't met anyone enlightened yet. I am not, right? But I understand that this path of growth can be supported by these tools that yoga offer. And in the other hand, we have a lot of things going on in our modern lives. We are overstimulated by everything, by our jobs, by our family, by our obligations, by what we are supposed to be doing. And I think that having this perspective of yoga sensitivity can help us to move through these layers that we are discovering through ourselves with more love and compassion from the people that it's teaching that to us, right? So this sensitivity to trauma has been a wonderful tool for yoga teachers to hold safe spaces for people that want to come to yoga, understanding that yoga is not a therapy, but it's a way, is a path, is a tool to come back to our normal reading, to our sensations, to the spaces, to connect to our minds, our heads, our memories from a more sensitive space.
I'm so glad you brought up trauma informed yoga and also helped kind of define it. Do you want to expand upon it a little bit more and talk about how you also integrate it into your offerings and teachings?
Yeah, of course. Well, trauma can be lived as if we were trapped in an event, right? Like things happen to us as humans. We have traumas, right? Some of us have like more, like hard events that have happened to our lives. Some of us haven't. So us as teachers don't know what's the story behind the person that is coming to a 60-minute class, right? We don't know what has happening, what are their recurring thinking process. We don't know if they can even register what's going on in their bodies as we guide them to move and flow into the practice, right? So trauma informed offer us as teachers, as holders of these transformational spaces, tools to invite people to enjoy their practice, right? Because no trauma is less or more than anything, right? We all have our own life experiences. So if I invite you to do a movement, will be different than if I ask you to do something. It can trigger any kind of memory to the person that is coming to the class, and it's important just to have the tools, use invitational language, like having awareness of the space where we are, how long the class will last. Because for people with anxiety, for example, we don't know where that anxiety is coming from. Just knowing that we will be in the space for 60 minutes, that there is the bathroom. If you need to rest, you can do it. If you need to have your eyes open the whole class, that's okay. So pretty much letting know people that everything is welcome in the class. Like there is no obligation to do anything but what feels comfortable in their bodies, in their movements, in their minds too. Trauma-informed spaces are created for offering modifications, variations, and options for everyone. It allows you to see yourself in your practice from where your body is reacting to something, discovering what sources you have for yourself, that you can source yourself, that you can respond to these kind of triggerings from the present moment, understanding that you are here, that you are not in that story, that you are not reliving the trauma, that you are here to listen to yourself, connect with yourself, hold yourself, and accept the moment of the present. And we talk about that in yoga a lot, being the present, but what does really being the present means? If someone is experiencing trauma, sometimes for them being in the present means going back to their memories because they're trapped in that. And also our body talks a lot about things and energy that we have storage in our body, just because we, as you said, right, we keep putting things under the carpet and under the carpet. So understanding the language in which our own bodies talk to us help us to understand better our needs, our emotions, and move with intuition, move with love, move with compassion. And of course, something I love about this practice is not only how spiritual it is, but also the science behind that, right? And it's important to mention that because, of course, yoga help us with everything I have said before, regulating, self-regulating, coming back to our center, understanding where we are right now. And in the science part, it also help us with all this hormone regulation, right? Helping us with all the cortisol release, reducing inflammation, helping our nervous system to just try to self-regulate too, and therefore all the benefits that come from that, supporting our immune system, helping us with stress response, with anxiety, with all these modern things that we have more information about today. Yoga can be a great space for people that has suffered any kind of trauma, any kind of PTSD, any kind of present moment stress, to understand where that's coming from in their bodies, where that's coming from in their emotional layer too, and use the practice to cultivate awareness to come back and self-regulate. So using yoga as a tool for self-regulation nowadays, I think, has to integrate this trauma sensitivity language, these trauma informed spaces, so we all can be safe in the practice. And also, that reminds me of listening some of my students talking about adjustments, right? Like, not everyone likes to be touched, not everyone feels comfortable in being touched or being adjusted by someone they don't know. And also, us as teachers, right, we need to understand what our energy is in the class. And part of holding that space is honoring our physical boundaries, physical limits, and knowing that it's not about the asana, it's not about the pose, it's not about the alignment, it's about safety too. So pretty much that's a little introduction about what yoga inform is and how can we integrate that in our yoga classes.
Thank you so much, Sharon, for expanding on that, because I do think trauma-informed yoga is absolutely, as you said, necessary in our current climate of the world with so much kind of chaos and grief and trauma going on. But I do think that, as you brought up, alignment, energy, our invitational language, the space that we're creating, there's so many elements to it. And I think unless you are really just a natural, mindful, empathetic, spirit, it can be difficult to comprehend that you could be making a mistake or making an error unless you have done some trauma informed training or work to understand. Because I know that I've seen other teachers and in classes I've been in adjust students in ways that would freak me out. I would just panic if someone touched me in that aggressive pushy way. Or one time I did have a student, as you brought up with your example, a student who needed to keep her eyes open throughout the whole practice, and I just thought that she was ignoring my instructions. I didn't even think it could be something. And so when I went over to her very quietly, just gently, and just said, "Oh, can you close your eyes?" And she said, "No, I can't." And I went, "Oh, okay." And I felt so guilty that I hadn't picked up on that. So I do think there's so much worth, and it's just so needed, this trauma informed yoga.
Yeah, it is. And I see you there. Like, I remember when I started teaching and students wouldn't close their eyes, I was like, maybe they're not connecting with the practice. And, like that watcher state keeps cultivating, right? It's like I am judging myself as a teacher when I think like people is not connected. And maybe they are not, and that's fine, right? They are discovering that in that moment. Probably they are like, I'm not here, I'm thinking about this, that, the monkey mind. But sometimes that monkey mind is not about, oh, I forgot to do this, I forgot to run that errand. Sometimes it's like I can close my eyes because I have memories, right? And actually, like, yes, there are lots of teacher trainings or yoga teacher trainings with focus on trauma informed, but also there are a lot of resources online that we can search and find some tips that we can integrate as teachers, right? And I think that's part of the responsibility as teachers, as I said before, sourcing ourselves with continuous knowledge and learning all the time. I like to bring yoga down to earth. It's not about unicorns and flowers and rainbows. It's beautiful. Yes, you can feel that way sometimes, but we are humans. I like to think that we are right now in this moment that humanity is experiencing because we have a mission. And now we understand better. Now we understand that trauma exists. We understand that it's important to support people as they are in their paths, not forcing anything, not wanting them to do a headstand before their bodies and minds and spirits are ready for that. Because then we start separating, we start doing the opposite, we start practicing from our egos and not from our hearts. And as teachers, I think that's one of the things I have learned a lot throughout these years of practicing, offering the tradition of yoga, is to always see myself from that space of witness and see what I thought as I was teaching. Oh, I was judging myself in this because this person wasn't connecting. Or maybe I could have done this better. I could have cued this better. How can I bring that 1 hour experience out of the mat too and see how much I have grown just by looking at myself with more love instead of judgment? And it's common for people to think that yoga teachers know everything, can do all the poses, can understand all the Sanskrit, right? And we are just humans doing the work, holding space for others as we continue to heal, as we continue to know ourselves better. We are here with a mission, and connecting with that purpose, with that dharma, is something that it's free for everyone. It's available for everyone, right? So definitely these spaces can create a lot of transformation for everyone. The person that decides to sign up in a retreat, to just come for a drop-in class, for the teacher that's supporting and holding space, that's where I see the union, where we can just be there as souls and understand that we all are doing the best we can with the tools we have. And we can also help each other, sharing tools, sharing experiences that may just inspire us to find that authentic place and move from that authentic place in our actions, in our thoughts, in our words, in our acts of service for others as well.
I love that. I love that. The bringing yoga down to earth, and to kind of take out some of those misconceptions about yoga teachers being, perfect at things or knowing a ton of stuff. I know I'm going to be a student of yoga for the rest of my life, and keep learning every day. And that is our mission and it's our responsibility, absolutely, to keep on learning and being better and better, more informed yoga teachers. So Sharon, since you do bring yoga down to earth and you take out the rainbows and you take out the unicorns, I'm curious, how do you define yoga?
It's so broad, right? It's so big because I actually love reading a lot about yoga and philosophy. And one of my favorite lectures when I teach is history of yoga, actually. So yoga goes beyond the asanas. Yoga goes beyond um, just the 60-minute class, right? It's important to understand that yoga is self-study. Yoga connects us with our souls, understanding that how all of the souls that are right now in this planet, in this earth, in this universe are interconnected, and that we are learning from each other. So for me, the biggest lesson or the biggest way to connect with yoga for me is seeing everyone as a teacher. And that's what yoga means for me. Like, if I find some sort of quote or book or I read something, I like to think that it's a teacher for me. If I see someone acting in a way that I wouldn't act, probably that's a teacher for me. If I go to a class with another yoga teacher and I find myself judging that teacher, judging myself in my experience, that's yoga, right? Like that self-knowledge, that responsibility to understand where we are, who we are, what's that person, what situation teaching me, and really important on the other hand, detaching from that. Knowing that, yes, I learned a lot today and I can feel proud of that. Oh, that's my teacher, that's the lesson. And then releasing that too. Going to bed at night, knowing that I can be grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you, God. Thank you, universe. Thank you, body. Thank you, person. Thank you, teacher. Thank you, lecture. Thank you, everything. And I can also release that, because as I feel that I know everything today, I know nothing. And when I understand that before going to bed or in the morning in my meditation, I think it's easier to move through what yoga really means, which is union, right? Releasing all those layers, releasing all those barriers. I know more than you. No, I don't. Oh, I understood this. I am more knowledgeable now. No, I'm not. I think I know, but I don't. I think I am healed, but I'm not. I think I am a teacher, but I'm a student, right? So just releasing those ego layers, and working on detachment every single day helps me to move through my own personal yoga practice. And of course, I hope that what I transmit to others as I facilitate these spaces can at least inspire people to understand that we are just a spirit in this body. We are just a spirit with an intellect that can connect us with our higher wisdom. But this intellect, this mind, this thinking mind is just a tool for my spiritual transformation too. So that's what really yoga means to me.
Great definition. I'm grateful that you shared those thoughts, because I do think they're relevant for me to hear every single day. I think I need to tell myself, detach, let go, probably, at least 20 times a day. I think that so many things have claws, practically, like, tiger claws that just like to stick in us so deeply. And we have these mental formations, these habits that these patterns, these, neural pathways we have built up over, 20 years or 30 years before we've started that journey of self-awareness and of observation, and of kind of checking, oh, should I, is wait, that's judgment. I don't want to, let's release that judgment. It is such a practice. And I think having compassion for ourselves when we struggle, because it also isn't a linear path ever. It's one step forward, 10 steps back, 4 steps forward, 30 steps back. It's just you have to have compassion and hopefully a sense of humor around it.
Yeah, totally. And also understanding, like, like this is spiritual path. You just mentioned that patterns, right? Samskaras. So we all are born with samskaras. We all are born with patterns that comes from the yogic philosophy, comes from past lives. And also we choose our parents. We choose, our souls choose our parents, and we learn lots of patterns from them, from our families, from society. So taking radical responsibility for our journey is learning to see those patterns with love. Because I really don't conceive, how can we heal without love? How can we forgive ourselves and others without love? Right? So the path of yoga is a path of love. Learning, relearning how to love ourselves better. Because as I love myself, I love you more too. I can love my partner, I can love my family, I can love my friends, I can love even a person that I don't know, that I haven't connected with, because that's the spirit of this practice. Coming back to your center, coming back to your Atman, to your soul, to your center of love every single moment. Doing that work can only happen if you sit with yourself and see your samskaras, and see yourself in the mirror and notice how hard you are with yourself, because we are so hard with ourselves, our thinking minds. are just trying to sabotage ourselves sometimes, right? So, coming from that space of love, using meditation as a self observation tool to understand, where am I today? What do I need today? What are my needs? Am I feeling ugly in front of the mirror? How can I try to cultivate more love right now? How can I remember who I am from the deepest space within me? And that's a hard job. That's a hard thing to do every day. But then what else can we do? Distract ourselves with other things? Yes, of course. And world is full of distractions. We as humans have created this maya, this illusion, these spaces in which we think we have to do every day. And actually, what we need to do is integrate that self knowledge with our human normal things to do, right? Because it doesn't mean that in order to move through the path of yoga, you have to go in a cave, meditate all day long, and yeah, eat the basic things, right? You can continue have your life. You can drink wine, you can go and dance and have fun and all that. But if yoga is part of your life as a tool, then come back to your center. Then remember who you really are when this body is not here. When you are in your spirit, when you are in that inner space of connection with your higher self.
Absolutely. I agree that you need to come back home to yourself, and you can absolutely live your life how you want it. I think people can fall into that. Can I really live follow a path of yoga if I still want to go out and, as you said, dance or drink wine? And I think things will naturally be if we stop fighting them and questioning them and poking and prodding and resisting. And it's just follow what feels right, let it flow, let it go. And then I think things will reveal themselves as you tap into your center and stop fighting so hard, fighting ourselves, fighting what's happening. It's these battles we wage, I think, take such a toll on us and our energy and our path. And as I love the word sabotage, I definitely use that as well in my teachings to explain that we are our own worst enemies.
That's true.
Oh, it's rough. Sharon, I do want to ask a little about Costa Rica, though. So, how was the yoga industry perceived and developed in Costa Rica?
Well, I think it's crazy how in the last years the yoga industry has become a thing here. Like when I talk about Costa Rica with people that don't live here, it's like, oh yeah, wellness, retreats, beach, And I think that Costa Rica has a lot to offer in terms of spaces for connecting with yourself. And if you come here, I know a lot of people that has come and it's like, I don't want to leave. How can I make a life here? Because it's the pura vida life, that's our I think slogan. Pura vida means pure life, and that's the way we live here. And we are surrounded by mountains, volcanoes, rivers. We have the blessing to count with both sides of the ocean, the Caribbean side, which is like, wow, it's amazing. Like all these jungle vibes. You can see sloths everywhere, monkeys, and you can just find yourself in a little house in front of the beach and either watch the sunrise or the sunset in the Pacific side. I think that Costa Rica has a lot to offer in terms of spaces to connect with yourself. And with that being said, the thing also is that lots of people from other countries are moving here and offering spaces for people from their countries or whatever part of the world they're coming from to come and experience that with them. They want to share that with their communities too. So if you go to any of the touristic areas in Costa Rica, you will find such a mix of culture and people coming from around the world, and it has create lots of space for wellness and yoga industry in general to set up for offerings, like yoga retreat centers, hotels that are already offering yoga daily or meditation daily, or like even, like yoga studios everywhere. So it has become a thing here in Costa Rica, and I'm glad and grateful and blessed that I can live that in my own country. I live in San Jose, which is the city, but I'm just like 1.5, 2 hours away from these spaces in which healing and transformation is happening too.
You definitely made me want to book a ticket. I definitely can use some of that right now. I
Yes, please, please come.
Sharon, I know one of your huge missions is making yoga more accessible and inclusive for the Latin American community by providing so many offerings in Spanish. I wanted to ask, do you have any offerings that are available in English? I know our listeners maybe would be curious on checking out your website or taking an online course with you, and I just would love to hear about those online or, of course, in person offerings as well.
Yeah, actually, I try everything that I offer in Spanish. I try to set it up in English too, or the opposite. If I come up with something in English, then I'll make it available in Spanish too. So pretty much all of our offerings are in both languages. I am blessed and privileged that I can speak both languages. Of course, I will be way more fluent in Spanish, but I'm working on being more comfortable with my English too. And definitely like these offerings are available both languages. Now we have different courses like prenatal yoga, 200-hour yoga teacher trainings available, recorded in English, and they are not offered as a certification but more like a self-study bundle. So people that are more interested in learning more, deepening their practices, and not exactly becoming yoga teachers can take those courses too. And in Spanish as well, everything is available online. And actually, we have a couple virtual yoga teacher trainings coming up next month for the Spanish or Latin American community. And then finally, next year, we'll be going back to in-person live yoga teacher trainings in English and probably in Spanish too. And they will be happening here in Costa Rica. So people can find everything in our website, karunatribu.com. And if they want to come to any of our retreats, both in Spanish, English, they can find all the information in my website. And we have scholarships available because it's important also to make it accessible in that way. I understand Costa Rica, I tell you, is not a really cheap country. It's kind of, expensive somehow, right? Something that yoga has given me too is creativity. So we are constantly evolving and offering new spaces, new retreats based on what the same community asks for us to give them. So we are usually posting everything on social media, so they can follow Karuna Tribu on Instagram or myself as Sharon Brenes on Instagram too.
Thank you for sharing all that information. And dear listeners, of course, all of Sharon's links will be here in the show notes wherever you're tuning in, as well as on my website, wildyogatribe.com. So everything's linked there. You can just click and magically be transported digitally to Sharon's world, which I'm sure we could all use some more of right now. So thank you so much, Sharon, for joining me for this conversation today. It's been just a true joy to be with you and to share this space. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. Have a blessed day, everyone who has listened to us too. Thank you for your time and your energy, and I send you all lots of love.
Thank you so much, dear listeners, for tapping into this episode with Sharon Brenes from Costa Rica. I hope that you found this conversation to be just touching, right? There was so many eloquent and beautiful things that Sharon said about using, your shadow elements as a path to follow your dharma, about going into the jungle to connect to Mother Earth and to connect with your own spirit. And also we talked about radical responsibility for doing inner work, as well as all the elements that go into trauma-informed yoga. There was so much more in this episode, of course, and I hope that you enjoyed every moment of it. Thank you for the precious gift of your time, dear listener. Be well. Feel like getting social? Connect with me and the Wild Yoga Tribe on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Head on over to thewildyogatribe.com to tap into some pretty awesome resources. Meditate with me on Insight Timer, a free app on Apple and Android devices, and join me for a yoga class on YouTube. Jazz up your week and get a bit of yoga in your life. Remember to hit subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And if you feel called, please share this episode with someone that you think could benefit from it. Leaving a review would also be so appreciated. Thank you again, dear listener, for being with me. May your day be light and bright. May you be peaceful and happy and led on the right path, free of suffering and free of sorrow. Be well, dear one. Be well.